12,111 are gathered in this hot sunshine up near 100 degrees, waiting to see who will represent the United States in the 100 meters event. We're getting ready for the final. And the world and American records can be spelled out with Carl Lewis and Calvin Smith and Ben Johnson, who we've already spoken to on ABC's Wide World of Sports today. And Carl Lewis and Calvin Smith, who share the American record, will both be coming up in this final. In lane 4, we'll take a look at Calvin Smith, who many feel hasn't really been given the credit that he feels and many other people feel he deserves for being the top sprinter for a long time.
Well, Calvin is a quiet guy, first off. He doesn't seek the publicity, he doesn't seek the public light, and he also is good at peaking at the end of the season. So many of his best races were in Europe and not in the United States, where he would get more publicity. That's why you haven't heard much about him. He also has been concentrating on 200 meters. He's the world champion the last 2 times at 200 meters. Now he's running very well at 100 meters.
He is now 27 years old, a graduate of Alabama. He ran for the Crimson Tide when Bear Bryant was still there. And right next to him is Carl Lewis. Yesterday, a pair of 9.96s, and today another strong effort. The 9.93, the co-American world record holder, with Calvin Smith right next to him. And I guess this is exactly the way it should come down, to the 2 American co-record holders in the final side by side.
I don't think you could have predicted that a couple of years ago. 3 years ago, people would have felt that Calvin Smith was finished with 100 meters and that Carl Lewis had too many other interests and may not even be around in 1988. So it is gratifying to see the 2 best ever, and I think we'll see that American record time better. Whether or not the wind will be legal is the question.
Dennis Mitchell is in lane 1. It is Mike March in lane 2. Joe DeLoach, the NCAA champion, in lane 3. What a surprise he has been in this particular event. His specialty was the 200 meters. Then Smith and Lewis. Albert Robertson, who ran a 9.94 to get into this final. He was fast today. Lee McNeil in lane 7 and Emmett King running unattached in lane 8. Here it is. The top 3 represent the United States in the 100 meters. The top 4 will most likely be the 4 men to run the 4x100 relay in the Olympic Games.
Please. We thank you. Mitchell, Marsh, DeLoach, Smith, Lewis, Robinson.
You see the little loudspeakers behind each of the runners in the blocks. Not really necessary with a small crowd like this. But there'll be some noise in a moment. Gusts of wind echoing off the microphones. The stadium is absolutely still. Smith in 4, Lewis in 5. Smith breaks out early. Lewis is right with him. Smith being beaten by Lewis. Lewis breaks away and wins the 100-meter final in a time of 9.78.
Okay, that could be the world record. I was watching the flags almost as much as I was watching the race. And if anything, the wind was coming from the side, and the side which would be sheltered by the stands.
There you see Ben Johnson watching in Canada at Carl Lewis running a 9.78. That's the fastest all time in any conditions. Interestingly enough, his time at the '84 Summer Olympics to win the gold medal was only a 9.99. Calvin Smith finished in, actually sliding into second place was Dennis Mitchell, who was in lane 1. He had his hands raised as he came across the line. And Calvin Smith finishes in 3rd to round out the United States Olympic team in the 100 meters. But what a moment of drama.
But we have seen the fastest that any man has ever covered 100 meters, and we saw the fastest that any woman has covered 100 meters. Incidentally, the number 1 and 2 man there, Carl, you saw him hug Dennis Mitchell. Both of them grew up within 100 miles of each other in New Jersey.
The unofficial time is 9:78. Let's go to Catherine Switzer.
And Carl, fantastic. You know, another Olympic Games for you.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I've come a long way in the last 4 years, and to run a personal best at a meet like this means so much.
Carl, in 3 of the races here, you have bettered a time that would have won the Olympic gold medal. I mean, it's been 4 years since the Olympics. Did you know that?
Well, I knew it, and I felt I was in the best shape I've ever been in. I tell you, people looked at Rome last year as a down race for me, but I thought it was a big race. And now I'm ready to go, and I know I can duplicate that legal.
Look, the only thing you're lacking is a world record. You thought you had it. Ben Johnson got it better. Has Ben Johnson motivated you this year?
Well, I wouldn't say Ben in particular, but knowing that I can improve, knowing that I'm older and stronger, and races like tonight prove it, so I'm ready.
Okay, you know Ben Johnson is watching this race live out of Toronto right now. What did you tell him?
I'm ready. USA wants it back.
Back to you, Al.
All right, Ben, take that. Now, this again was the fastest time ever recorded by anyone, but right now we're being told that it was wind-aided at a time of 9.78.
Well, right next to Carl on the right-hand side in lane 4, Calvin Smith did have the better start. Carl took his time getting up to full speed, once again harnessing his energies for the latter part of the race. That's where a lot of action happened. The places really changed. Carl holding his form well. He was getting a lot of pressure from Calvin Smith. Carl even starting to lean forward here a little bit as he senses a tape. And on the inside, lane 1, watch Dennis Mitchell. He's going to get second, I believe. And Calvin Smith may get third. Remember, in '84, he did not qualify in either individual event, so he would love to get that third spot. 6 men from this race will get to go to Seoul as alternates on the relay. Once again, Carl coming out of the blocks, running almost perfectly straight down his lane. You've got 2 veterans here, 2 men who know what they're doing, 2 men who don't crack under pressure, and in this case, they both pushed each other to one of the greatest performances in history.
Well, how's this for close as far as fulfilling dreams to represent this country? Carl Lewis in a time of 9:78, then Mitchell in a time of 9:86. Then behind him by 1/100th of a second at 9:87 is Calvin Smith. And then Albert Robinson, who ran so well, loses out a position on the 100-meter U.S. Olympic team by 1/100th of a second. No appeals, no nothing. Even if you were injured and couldn't race here, it doesn't matter. You had to do it here at the Olympic trials to make the team. And that will be the story of the U.S. Olympic trials in track and field as we continue our coverage over the next 2 weekends. Carl Lewis and Jackie Joyner Kersey stars today. Let's go to Frank Gifford.